Hey, how are you? So, it's been a little while, but I wanted to share something that I've been working on as I have been plugging away at writing my book and figuring out this balance between writing it and then editing it and editing it and sharing it and inspiring you. So, it's a balance I'm still working out, and if you've already got it mastered, let me know. But I wanted to share to you a story from when I was about 20, when that was like the highlight of when my sense of purpose or my finding it crashed. And it's part of why I'm passionate about helping other people find their purpose or recognizing, not just finding it, because a lot of times it's right there in front of us. But what happens is we believe these 7 myths. There are a million myths and variations of it. Hi, Amanda. If you're on here, say hi. If you're watching the replay, say replay. Let me know you're here. And let me know in the comments what myth you have believed that's held you back from doing or creating a life that you love, a life that's meaningful, something that you felt called to do or wished you could have done, but you held back. Let me know what that myth was for you. So, when I was 20, that year that my whole sense of purpose crashed or my life crashed is the year that I got back from living my dream. I had one big dream when I was a teenager, and I lived that dream at age 19. I came back home, and then I was like, oh, well, now what? And so I'm going to share a little bit more about that in my blog post, and I'll share that link below once it's posted. But I had this vision of, I wanted more of a life adventure, but a safe adventure. I'm not really a huge adventure person, but I didn't want just a monotonous, like, find a career, get married, live happily ever after kind of life. I had some dreams, but for some reason I just felt boxed in by them. I like to write and I like to explore. I loved other perspectives. And I saw this newspaper on my kitchen table as I was growing up. Every month it would come and there's these pictures of this hospital ship that would go around the world, and they would remove tumors, like giant huge tumors from those faces. Or there's these little kids who had cleft palates and their faces were disfigured, and I would see the before and after surgeries, their smiles, and I just imagined the hope. And like, some of these lives, because of this, they were so inhibited. They didn't have resources in these third world countries in Africa or Central America, and they would be outcast. They would be shunned from their communities. They wouldn't be able to provide for their families. And I would just imagine these stories. There are people that would set aside months, even years of their life and go serve on the ship and just help. And I didn't want to be necessarily the nurse or the doctor or the surgeon or the experts going on these trips. That never actually really occurred to me. I just wanted to be part of helping them and serving them and helping their lives get better. And so I babysat and set aside my money. I was like so frugal, I hardly spent anything. I got my first job setting irrigation pipes all around a field, and I would set that money aside. I got my first job helping with some special needs kids, and I set as much money as I could aside. And when I was 19, I could afford to go on this. It was 5 months on the ship, and it was a discipleship training school where I would learn more about the Bible and a bit more about missions and just kind of stretch and grow. And so that once and living that, it was like my dream come true, and it was stretching, but it was so different because all of a sudden I was an introvert, used to all my alone time, and I was on this small ship surrounded by people all the time. I I loved the idea of people and sorting, like getting to know them and connecting with them, but I was kind of awkward and insecure about it because I realized I didn't relate to a lot of them. I liked my life writing and reading my books and going for walks in woods, and I liked helping with meaningful things. I didn't like small talk. I didn't like, in our youth group, I didn't have patience for people who fooled around all the time and whatever. I just didn't relate to them. So when I got there on the ship, I loved hearing about these stories, but I didn't really like any of the fluffy, like get to know you stuff. I wanted to go deep right away, and not everybody's into that. And so I connected well with a few people, but I was just curious about more people, but I was so shy and introverted. I just felt awkward doing it. So there's this contrast between, what I thought life would be and connecting with some close friends that I could reach in that limited, like they didn't have internet very much. You couldn't mail stuff because the ship was moving every few weeks. So, it would take like a month before you'd get a letter from a friend or family. And so anyway, it was really hard, but I loved the stretching, and I had such powerful experiences. I thought this would help me in defining what my future purpose would be. I actually thought that I would stay on that ship, that God would, like, secretly, I was thinking, all these other people that served on the ship, some of them, they felt God call them to stay there, and they would reluctantly agree, kicking and screaming, because they wanted to go back home and live their life. And they felt this strong, like, don't send me to Africa, anywhere but Africa, kind of call to the ship. And I was secretly hoping that would happen to me, because it would be direct, and I would know what to do. I wouldn't have to figure it out. And it was just kind of an adventure. And so the end of that 5 or 6 months came, and everybody else was talking about, oh, they were going to stay on the ship. Oh, they didn't want to, but they felt God calling to. Some of them got engaged on the trip. Some of them were going back to a fiance. Some of them were going back to university and actually starting their school, and they knew what to do. And I didn't. I was frustrated and overwhelmed and so discouraged because it felt like I was the only one that didn't know what I was supposed to do with my life. And I was supposed to have it all figured out by then. So I came home from this trip and had all these experiences and people that I knew. And I came home and life had changed. The people in school had graduated. There was a new pastor in my church who started a new life group, and all these people had already started forming relationships. And I was like, I don't know. Didn't feel like I fit in, felt like I was intruding, and I was just lost, looking for my purpose. And when I was trying to find, what do I do? Do I stay on the ship? Do I raise funding? Finally, I just hungered down and said, God, I'm not leaving this spot until you show me what's going on. And I felt him say, go home to Canada, go impact the people of your generation there. And I was like, what? Like, it was so vague. I still didn't know what to do with it. And it wasn't very adventurous. I still had to do all the work of figuring it out. And I was like, this sucks. This isn't what I wanted. Just tell me what to do, God. And so he didn't. I went home. I was lost. And I went back to my job, started saving money, because I'm like, well, I'm broke. Now I got to save up for my next dream, come up with my next dream. And so I just started finding my purpose in basically the first needy person that came along, in the sense of, she was a wallflower. She didn't already have lots of relationships, so I gravitated to her. And she needed a lot of support. She had a lot of stuff to figure out. And so I just invested everything into her. She ended up becoming a close friend, but it ended up being a very unhealthy friend relationship, partly because she was dealing with her own emotional stuff and wounds and figuring out her own path, but also because I was using all of my void of purpose to dump into her. And after about a year of that, I lost my sense of who I was, everything that I had developed on that mission trip. I was giving, I was working so much, I was giving and giving and giving. And because I didn't have that sense of direction to fill me up, I just kept giving until I was just an empty shell. And finally all that caved in, and I didn't know how to deal with it, so I just ignored it. I didn't know who to ask for help, what to talk through. Made some choices because I was still mad at God, and so I made choices that I wasn't proud of and I knew that he wouldn't approve of, almost despite him, and almost just because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So after a year of that, I crashed. I came home one night and I started crying and bawling, and my poor friend was like, I don't know what to do with you. She brought me to my mom, and I couldn't stop for like a couple of hours. It just all came caving in, and I had to, in that week, or within a couple of weeks, I went to my doctor. Like I was like, I came apart. So I went to my doctor, got a stress leave from my job because I didn't have any capacity for stress anymore. I broke. I quit my job because it was unfulfilling, and some of the stuff in there was making me uncomfortable, and I just couldn't go back. I got served notice to leave the apartment that I was in because the landlord's family member had to move in. And I got a letter from the school. It was another school from that same organization that I wanted to, of course, I was like, okay, this really interests me. I'm just going to go take this course. I applied for it and I didn't get in. All of these things came crashing in 1 week. And it all just kind of stared at me in the face like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I don't know what I'm doing with my purpose. What the heck? And that was a defining moment. And I'm going to share more about it in my book, maybe in some future posts along. But at 20, that stage of burnout, that loss of purpose, the pressure of trying to figure out what to do with my life. So I did, in a sense, I didn't do anything. I was just trying to find one path from another. I lost it. And it took me, I would say, it was over the next 10 years to figure out what was actually happening in me. What was I looking for? What were the myths I was believing? To unravel it all, to figure out, to rebuild who I was, what I stood for, and what I wanted out of life. And so from that experience, I'll tell you the shortcut of the beliefs that I was believing, but also the ones that I've seen other people believe. And these come across most from what I've seen in people who kind of care about their purpose. They want a more meaningful life. Some people don't seem to struggle with this a whole lot because they just pick their path and they just basically aren't believing their myths. They just find something meaningful, choose a path, and they go for it. So these myths are usually for the people that just feel stuck or scared, or they sit on waiting for God to tell them where to do, and they feel stuck because they aren't hearing anything from God. There's students who are stressed out about picking the right university, picking the right path, picking what do I want to do with my life? They're entrepreneurs trying to start a business. They're moms who either have to work and want to stay home or feel that they're supposed to stay home, maybe homeschool their kids, but they have this other idea they want to explore. These myths come out in all these areas of life. So let me know if you can relate to any of them. I'm just going to pull up my list here so I can get into them. So myth number 1. My purpose is about finding the right or predestined destination for my life. If I miss it, I risk screwing up my entire life. Can you relate to that? And the truth is that my purpose emerges along a journey. And though I might feel called to make a specific impact along the way through my various roles, my purpose is not defined by a destination. So your purpose is a journey. It unfolds along the way. Myth number 2 is my purpose earns my value and worth by doing something significant or helpful. So this is subtle, but it's backwards. Because the truth, let me explain the truth first. The truth is I have value before I ever accomplished anything. Because I was created with love, I was given a purpose by God. I'm invited to make an impact that only I can make through my purpose, approach, and strengths. And so this came to light when I realized I was trying to earn something. I was trying to earn a life worth living so that I could feel value. Because maybe after I had screwed up, I didn't, I felt like I had to earn my way back in with God, earn a life worth having, a purpose, earn my value. And it was backwards. I first had to believe that I was valued by God, by others, just because I was created in who I was. I didn't have to achieve anything to get that. And that's powerful, because what happens is when you believe you already have worth and value and you step out into that, then you are heading into your purpose with a full cup. But when you head out into your purpose to serve, to do something with your skills and your experiences, to set out to make that impact that you feel called and share your message, if that's your sense of purpose, but you're doing it to earn value, then you're looking to other people to fill you up instead of you giving out of that overflow of who you are in standing in that. And that matters, because you need to be able to show up in your purpose with a full heart, with a full cup, so that it overflows out of you. Of course, that is like a whole series of trainings we could do on that. But if that's one that you struggle with, put down number 2 in the comments, or let me know if that's still something you're working through. Myth number 3 is my purpose and value depend on my success and status. Now you'll see a lot of these myths, they kind of overlap, but I've separated them because they're so significant. This is big if you're a perfectionist, or if you are crippled by fear of failure, or by life's disappointments, by unexpected things throw your way and life isn't quite turning out the way you expect. You're hard on yourself because all you see, you just see it wrecking with your sense of purpose, because you're equating your purpose with the success of that dream, or that thing turning out the way you thought, your success, what you pictured would happen. And when it all unravels, it takes a hit on your identity, your value, and your success. But the truth is, and you'll see this all throughout the Bible, if you are a follower of Christ, and this is what I believe, all the stories of the Bible, purpose is revealed and refined and reshaped through life's pain, through suffering, through failures, through disappointments. Because purpose is also, it's like I said, it's not a destination you're created to. It's something that it's who you are. It's a part of your being before you're doing. And so all of these things, when you turn it around, you start seeing life's pain and disappointments by how they can shape you. And that I saw most when my marriage fell apart. My first marriage, after 3.5 years, my ex walked away, and I didn't have a chance to live up to my values of working on my marriage, of sticking it through, of doing whatever it took to make it work. And I was just left with this stigma of who I was, who others thought it was, of not being able to even own my own values, other than I had to choose who I was in that and decide and determine, okay, I can't control this circumstance. How am I going to live my purpose through that? And by choosing that decision first, there was moments where I was at my weakest and frailest. I felt like I had nothing, but I gave hope to people who were broken in their own separation and broken relationships. And I was in a group of about at least a dozen people. I was the youngest in the group, and people looked to me for leadership and direction and hope, because that's what I was standing on. And so failure doesn't define your purpose, but it does help reveal it. It gives you immense opportunities in your purpose through those disappointments and frustrations, if you choose it. So number 4 is purpose And my purpose is one thing. So one role, one achievement, one direction for my whole life. So there's this belief that you can't change directions, that, when you're young, you have to choose that one career direction, and that's your path for the whole life. And we know, like statistics say, people live like they have like 7 to 10 jobs or 13 or whatever the stats are now. So even that dispels, how can you live your purpose if you have that many jobs, right? When you're so stressed out about choosing that right career at the beginning. Or maybe, there's so many things that dispel this. And when I questioned, so in my blog post that I'll share later on, is that I actually asked a bunch of entrepreneurs online, friends who, what they had believed, and a lot of them had believed this before they leaned into the path they're in now. They shared this belief had them stuck. So if this is something that's you've been stuck in, either now or in the past, let me know. Myth number 4. And the truth is that my purpose can complement and be expressed in any situation, season, role, or direction in my life. You're not confined to just one. So you can be a mom. You can be, have a career. You can go back to school and change directions. You can write a blog and share your musings and your life experiences. Share your message that you have on your heart while you're doing your other roles. And maybe it's not even your primary one, but through living your purpose in other roles, you can shine light or give it a spotlight through other means. Maybe it's writing a book. Maybe it's speaking at workshops or retreats. Whatever it is, whatever is on your heart, it's not just one thing. It might, your expressions and how your purpose complements the rest of your life can shine in so many different areas. And it can just enhance everything about your purpose even more. So if you see that in your life, what are some of the different areas it translates and overlaps? Let me know. Number 5 is my purpose has to be my career, or my purpose can't be my career. I've seen this in young adults. I see that stress where you just feel this pressure of, okay, my work has to be my purpose. What do I pick that, defines my purpose? But any job, any role can do that. And I felt this, I saw it, this myth. I actually didn't know to question. I was okay with it until later. In that quest to go on that missionary ship and that hospital ship, and back then I was actually okay. I don't think I believed this myth till later, that I was okay with just helping other people do the important stuff, do the trainings in community development, in being a surgeon or a doctor. I didn't want to be all those things. I wanted to be the helper that helped make their lives easier. And that was a lot of my first, probably a lot of my 20s. That's what I loved to do. I loved being administrative. I love being administrative and helping other people with the big visions. And I didn't think that I had to do anything, of the big importance. I could live my purpose doing that. And so I just lost my train of thought here. Oh, that's because I didn't finish that statement. That would be why. The opposite is also true in that I see in a lot of moms that you feel like being a mom is your only purpose. And so then all of a sudden you feel this guilt trip if you have to go back to work, or you feel a desire to start a business or start a career or go back to school, and it takes some of your time and attention, right? That lovely mommy guilt holds you back or it just weighs you down because you have to take that direction. Everything in you is propelling you in that, but you feel this mommy guilt for doing it twice. And thankfully, I've realized I'm a better person for doing my work and being a mom. I don't do just one of those really well. I shine when I'm balancing all of them. And so your purpose isn't just defined by one role. Again, it's kind of the same overlapping one, but I hear this one specifically so much I wanted to address it. Purpose number 6 is my purpose is defined by what other cultures say or imply. So this could be your family culture, what you grew up believing, what your neighborhood, what your environment, could be the country you're in. Maybe there's a certain belief or system. Your religion, maybe the church you're in kind of shaped you a certain way. You can't do this and you should do this. And this is just, maybe it's just my easy cheat way of encompassing a whole pile of myths. So here's some of the ones that I've heard people say to me. That women's primary role is to be pretty. My friend Rylan said this one. If you're homeschooled, you have an inferior future. As a homeschooler, this one I heard a lot, and I chose not to believe it, but it's definitely a pressure to believe. That you have to go to college or education to be successful and get a good job. I saw that with some of my family members when they immigrated here, and they worked their butts off to make a career and have a living, but they had this less than feeling because they hadn't gone to university. Yet they built incredible businesses that other people wouldn't have dared to. Another one that I hear is that I have to wait for God to show me his plan before I believe that I have a purpose or can do anything about it. And I see so much time wasted because people are waiting for a specific revelation when so much of the time you just step out and the little things that put yourself out there, and you get discovered and it flourishes along the way. And I was guilty of this too. So many of these, and I'll give more examples in my blog. But the truth here is that I and you are a masterpiece, created with skills and gifts to do incredible things, and invited to participate in a divine story much grander than your own. You can live your purpose where you are right now. You can also live it by busting through the glass ceilings of the expectations around you. Purpose number 7 is I must know everything about my purpose before I choose a direction or path. Again, this belief came for me from my perfectionism when I was younger. And really, this belief is about purpose, but if you're a perfectionist, you see this in layers around the rest of your life, right? You don't want to start a project because unless have it all figured out ahead of time. You don't want to choose a school or a career unless you kind of know what are all of the steps that are going to happen from that. I didn't even want to publish this blog post because I didn't have it all fine-tuned and figured out along the way. And I realized this is just working with it while I write my book and sharing my thoughts. And it's fluid and it can change. And there's more myths maybe I'll add by the time my book is published, or that you guys can chime in and give your perspectives and call me on stuff. Maybe you haven't fleshed or thought this all the way out. And I'm like, I'm just going to post it. So the same thing with my purpose is when it's a direction in life, you just choose a direction. And if you're following a GPS and you take a route, and maybe you take the scenic route, you can get back to another meaningful path. Or maybe you just enjoy going in the wrong direction and you take meaning from it and it works towards your purpose anyway. Whatever it is, your truth is that your purpose expands through your character development, your strengths, your skills, your experiences, passions, and how you respond to the needs around you. The more you take action, the more you discover, and the more your purpose can flourish. For me, it came down to you can't steer a parked car. And the more I could take action, the more I could experience and get brave and put experience behind me so I had a better perspective. So those are my 7 thoughts to share with you. So which one resonated with you the most? I will recap them for you. So your purpose is, the myth number 1, your purpose is about finding the right destination for your life, or you risk screwing it up. And your purpose. Number 2, the myth. Your purpose earns your value and worth by doing something significant or helpful. Myth number 3, my purpose and value depend on my success and status. Number 4, my purpose is one thing for my whole life. Myth number 5, my purpose has to be my career, or it can't be my career. Myth number 6, my purpose is defined and determined by what other cultures and people imply. And number 7, the myth is I must know everything about my purpose before I choose a direction or take action. So which one can you relate to? Or is there another one that has kept you back from creating a life that is meaningful or a life that you love? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you around this week. Take care.